Hi, and thank you for visiting my channel. For more information, kindly subscribe and follow. Now let's get started. Rhea Ripley and Damian Priest had a heartbreaking night at SummerSlam 2024 when the Judgment Day members turned their backs on the Terror Twins. Recently, Mommy addressed the rumors that she cried backstage following the betrayal. SummerSlam 2024 will forever be remembered as the event when the Judgment Day changed forever. Rhea Ripley and Damian Priest were backstabbed by those that they once considered their family on the roster. In a recent conversation with the Wrestling Classic, the Nightmare stated she cried backstage at the biggest party of the summer. The Australian also explained how the Judgment Day helped her career, admitting she was not ashamed to weep after her time with the stable ended. The Judgment Day was really family to me, like, it really was. It helped my career so much more than I can actually put into words. I feel like that's when I started opening up and feeling comfortable going out there in front of the crowd because I had the boys that I could fall back on. It was really emotional for me. I saw something come out about the Judgment Day members, a specific one, crying backstage after everything, and I'm not ashamed of it. That was me, Ripley said. I was upset, like the last 2.5 years of my life. It's changed now. I can't go back to that. They were my boys, they were my family, and it was really sad. But at the same time, something so good comes to an end, and the other side of it is something amazing is about to start as well. I wasn't really thinking about that because I was just so emotional. That was the most fun I've had in my career in a long time, from 1844 to 1953. Rhea Ripley is set to face Liv Morgan at WWE Bad Blood last month. Rhea Ripley and Damian Priest gained momentum when they defeated Liv Morgan and Dominic Mysterio in a mixed tag team match at Bash in Berlin. Earlier this month, it was revealed that the Miracle Kid would defend her women's world title against the Eradicator at WWE Bad Blood 2024. Meanwhile, Priest will lock horns with Finn Balor in a grudge match. It will be interesting to see if Mommy regains her title at the upcoming PLE. I wasn't ashamed. Rhea Ripley admits she cried backstage when the Judgment Day turned on her and Damian Priest. The echoes of the steel chairs hitting the mat still reverberated in the arena when Rhea Ripley finally managed to escape backstage. The cheers, the jeers, the confusion, all of it seemed a blur. Her heart pounded as she leaned against the cold concrete wall, her eyes scanning the bustling backstage area where crew members and other superstars moved about as if nothing had changed. But for Rhea, everything had. Just moments ago, inside the ring, what was supposed to be a Judgment Day solidarity match had quickly spiraled into chaos. Rhea had always prided herself on being fierce, strong, and unbreakable. After all, she was the woman who carried the Judgment Day on her back, alongside Damian Priest. They had weathered storms together, stood tall against their enemies, and wreaked havoc on WWE with an iron fist. The Judgment Day was family. But tonight, that family had torn itself apart. As the crowd erupted in shock when Finn Balor and Dominic Mysterio turned their backs on Rhea and Damian, Rhea's mind had raced with confusion, betrayal, and a swirl of emotions she hadn't felt in years. She was used to dominating her opponents, not being blindsided by her own comrades. But there they were, standing across the ring with smug looks, their betrayal burning through her like a hot blade. How could they do this, she thought. The stinging realization hit her. This wasn't just a typical wrestling swerve. This was personal. As she reached for a towel backstage, wiping the sweat and blood from her face, Rhea felt her hands start to shake. The adrenaline was wearing off, leaving a raw wound that had nothing to do with physical pain. Before she could stop herself, tears began to sting her eyes. Rhea Ripley, the woman who had stood face-to-face with the likes of Charlotte Flair and Becky Lynch, the Eradicator of the Judgment Day, was crying. I wasn't ashamed of it, Rhea later revealed in a heartfelt interview. I cried, and I wasn't ashamed. I cried because I believed in the Judgment Day. I believed in the bond we had, the chaos we created together. But Damian and I, we were the ones left behind. Her voice had wavered, but there was a defiance in her words, a strength in her vulnerability. For Rhea, this wasn't just about a wrestling storyline. It was about betrayal from the very people who she had considered her allies, her brothers. Rhea continued to explain that the Judgment Day had always been built on the foundation of chaos, dominance, and unity. When she and Damian had first joined forces with Finn Balor and Dominic Mysterio, they had promised to disrupt the WWE landscape and leave no room for weakness. But as time went on, cracks had begun to form, cracks that she had tried to ignore. "I saw it coming," Rhea admitted, her dark lips curling into a bitter smile. "There were moments where I felt that something was off, that Finn and Dom were planning something. But I didn't want to believe it. I didn't want to admit that my own family would turn on me." Damian Priest, her closest confidant in the Judgment Day, had sensed the same unease. But like Rhea, he chose to push through, believing their bond would withstand any internal conflict. But that night, in the middle of the ring, with the crowd watching, they realized just how wrong they had been. When Finn and Dominic attacked them, the betrayal hit harder than any steel chair ever could. Rhea had looked into Finn's eyes, searching for any trace of the brotherhood they had shared, but all she saw was cold calculation. Dominic, too, the man she had taken under her wing, now stood against her with no remorse. Backstage, the reality of the situation crashed over her like a tidal wave. As she sat in the locker room, the tears flowing freely, she felt Damian's hand on her shoulder. He, too, looked defeated, his face a mixture of anger and hurt. But there was an unspoken understanding between them. They were in this together. "We've been through worse," Damian had muttered, trying to lighten the mood. But even he couldn't hide the pain in his voice. Rhea nodded, wiping her tears and straightening up. "We'll rise from this," she whispered, her voice filled with determination. "They think they've broken us, but they've only made us stronger." The days that followed were tense. Fans speculated endlessly about the reasons behind the betrayal. Social media was ablaze with theories, many wondering if Rhea and Damian had done something to deserve the turn. But the truth, as Rhea revealed later, was simple: power. "Finn and Dominic wanted more control," she said bluntly. "They wanted to be the faces of the Judgment Day, and they saw Damian and me as threats. They thought they could push us aside and take the glory for themselves." But Rhea and Damian weren't ones to stay down for long. In the weeks after the betrayal, they regrouped, strategizing their next move. And while the pain of being turned on still lingered, Rhea was clear about one thing: she wasn't ashamed of her emotions. "I'm not afraid to show that I care," she stated in her interview. "I cried because I'm human. But I'll also fight because that's who I am." Finn and Dominic think they've won, but they have no idea what's coming for them. The rivalry between Rhea, Damian, and the remaining members of the Judgment Day quickly became one of the most talked-about feuds in WWE. Fans were eager to see what would happen next, and the tension between the former allies only grew with each passing week. As for Rhea, she channeled her hurt and betrayal into something powerful. Every punch, every kick, every move she made in the ring was fueled by the fire that had been ignited by Finn and Dominic's betrayal. And while the scars of that night would never fully heal, they served as a reminder of her resilience. "I wasn't ashamed to cry," Rhea repeated with a fierce gleam in her eye. "But now? I'm not ashamed to fight back even harder." The war between Rhea, Damian, and their former Judgment Day comrades had only just begun.